All right, guys, we're gonna start. There's a lot of things that we have to go over. In reality, 1 hour and a half is not really enough to like actually build a drone. It takes time. It takes iteration. It takes like getting it wrong and getting it right the second, third time. So, well, I'm gonna get into it a little later, but a little bit about me. My name is Jonier Pinales. I'm like part of it. I've been part of ACM for almost 2 years, since 2015. You don't have to clap. It's okay. You don't have to clap. It's okay. You don't have to clap. But thank you. Whoa. Well, it's supposed to say I'm just someone who loves technology in general. I'm always like trying to make new things, trying to challenge myself, learning new type of technologies. I'm doing computer science. I had nothing to do with computer engineering. But I did wanted to always build my own drone, so like I went to it and I started doing it. And actually, the guy who inspired me is right there, Aldo. I think last year I saw him once, like it was 9 p.m. leaving class, and he had like this huge drone. I'm like, what? You did that? He's like, yeah, man, I did that. I'm like, damn, I want to do that too. So he's the guy who inspired me to actually build my own. The purpose of this workshop is because I want to kind of share the experience and give a general guideline to those who want to do it, but have the hurdle of like, okay, what do I do? Like if right now you ask yourself, how do I build a drone? It's like, what? Like, I don't know. Like, you don't know what parts to get, what size, or like different pieces to get, and like they all work together and like they're compatible with each other. So I had to do a lot of research when it came to that, to like what pieces to get and stuff like that. And I'm constantly still learning. I'm not a pro on like everything. So like, but I did wanted to share like the resources that I've encountered and the what's it called, the bad experiences that I have. So you guys, if you ever want to build your own drone, you don't have to like go through them, and just like you have an easier time than I did. Like I said, like I was saying, like it can be challenging. I just want to share my personal experience, and then there's actually no complete guideline online that tells you that everything you have to do, like every single detail, because it's so much that you have to go and take into account when building a drone. That there's no complete. At least I didn't find any complete guide. There are some guides that are almost complete, but not completely. So what I did was I tried to make it as complete as possible, at least for like how to get the parts for it. And it's also fun, so building your own drone is like fun. So what type of drone will be the guide based on? It will be like a FPV 20, so like the frame size is 210 millimeters. As you can see here, it's very small. It's usually a race drone. It's not really for like camera or like. It does have a camera, but it's not really for like taking pictures and stuff like that. It's called FPV because it's called first-person view, meaning you have a camera here. And then you can like put like goggles that you connect to the camera, and then you can like fly it like first person. So a little bit more about it is that we're gonna use a CC3D flight controller, because am I speaking too fast, by the way? Okay. We're gonna use a CC3D flight controller, which comes with a Pilot Libre, which is like a software that you can tune the control and stuff like that. And then we also use 5-inch propellers. Not the 3-1, like just the 2-1. I know he has like the 3-1 because once you want to get more speed, the 3-1 is faster. So, and then talk about, before we go into like the parts and stuff like that, I want to talk a little bit about safety, because while building this drone, I've had some not bad experiences, but like some I've burned like a couple stuff and stuff like that. So the first thing to say is that you should always wear goggles, especially when you're soldering. You should wear goggles. Always check that the circuits are connected correctly, so like the red positive, black negative. And always have a clean workspace. This is actually like 2 days ago I was fixing it, and yeah, it's not clean at all. So always try to have a clean workspace, because you can lose parts and stuff like that are very important. I remember one time I lost like a single cable that it was like to connect the transmitter with the with the receiver, and I went crazy for like 3 hours and I couldn't find it. So yeah, so try to keep it clean. Try to always like clean up after you do anything or you fix or something. Put everything back in this place, because if you just leave a mess, you're not gonna find things like after. More on safety, insulate the wires. This is just one out of the 6 electronic speed controllers that I've burned. Yeah, I've burned like a lot of pieces of the drone already. So insulate the wires, like make sure they're not exposed, because if there could be a short circuit. Use propeller guards. I mean, for racing drones, you actually don't use them, but if you're just trying to like learn and stuff like that, you should, because it protects your propeller from breaking, and like it's also like if, let's say, you do something crazy and it goes up to you, it's gonna hurt. So when you're using the battery, I'll probably talk about that later when I speak about batteries. And the last part is that to fly in open spaces. I know we don't have that in Miami, but always try to find a really, really open space that you can fly it in, so you can really enjoy it. If you fly in like a very close space, you're not gonna really enjoy it that much, because you're gonna be worried about, oh, what if it's here, it's there, or it falls. Does anybody have any questions so far? Or I'm going like super fast. No? Okay, good. General guidelines when you actually building the drone is be patient. Don't try to rush through it, because that actually is going to backfire on you. If you try to rush through it, you might do something wrong, or you might connect the wrong cables or something like that. Actually, the first time I finished it, I put one of the propellers upside down, so it was literally flying like this the whole time, because the thrust was going backwards instead of going up. And then I realized this, and I was like, this is because I was doing it in a rush, right? So always double check everything was put in the right place. Like when you, let's say, if you put like one of the ASCs, or you put like, especially the power distribution board and stuff like that, make sure that you put them in the right place, and you connect everything in the right place. And then store it like in a no human environment. Yeah, one of the things that I found out while building the drone is that mostly the electronic parts are best to buy them at Amazon, just because if you buy it at eBay, they come from China, and besides it takes a long time, sometimes they're not the best ones. So usually at Amazon you have better customer service. They are a little bit more pricey, but you get a better quality drone overall. Okay. Anybody following so far? Okay, so going on to the fun part, which is actually building the drone. The first thing you want to get is the flight controller. So this one is like I said, it's a CC3D flight controller. It's made by Autopilot. Does anybody here is familiar with a flight controller? Is anybody here familiar with it besides you, of course? Okay, so for everybody else, flight control is basically a CPU. But flight control is basically a CPU. The 4 motors go connected here. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. The principal component goes connected here like that order. So you have the one, you got drone, let's say facing up. This is motor 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? And we're going to put that. Then so then it's actually not the same setup as I have, but so the 4 ESCs go connected in the 4 pins, like from servo 1 to 4, right? You can also connect more than that, not just 4. 4 is if you have a quad copper, so you can have like a 6 or 8. That's why it has 8 ports in total. You can also connect, so to connect the what's it called? the transmit, I mean the receiver, you connect it to, so can anybody see this one? Because that's when it's a decent setup, so I'm not sure where everything is. But the receiver gets connected here. So like, if you see it, I know. So the receiver gets connected here, this side. Everybody see it? But I'm sure you can.
I see it in the camera that you can project that you can actually like put it under there.
Where is it? Okay, so there we go. Okay, so as you can see, the numbers listed from 1 to 6. This is 6. The electronic speed controller, which I'll be talking about it later. It's like what controls the motors, like the speed and stuff like that, and the signals come from here. So you connect them from 1, 2, 3, and 4, like the numbers. Then the transmitter is connected here, right? The receiver gets connected here, right? 6 channels. In our case, I use a 6-channel transmitter, so I use a 6-channel receiver. And then to connect it to like the computer, you connect it here. So if you get any of these boards, you have to make sure that when you get it, you know like the setup, how you're getting it, because each board is different. Like the one I had in the presentation is a little bit different, even though it's like a CCTV. So yeah. This board also supports like cameras and more stuff they can connect to it. And it's also easy to tune because they have a software for it. So yeah. The second thing to get, it's the motors. Get some play plastic. The motors is just that, a motor. This one goes well with the 220mm frame. There are different sizes of motor for different types of frames. I think I have a link. I have a link of like the guide, which by the way I forgot to mention. If you guys go to this link, you can see the full guide of like how to get the like more explanation on the motors and stuff like that. So I did that like 2 days ago. You can see like more explanation on what type of motors to get, what do they go with, and stuff like that. So this drone specifically uses hobby-made size 2204. And that goes well with the propellers, because sometimes, let's say, if you get a different size, you have to get a propeller adapter. Then the electronic speed controllers, as I was saying. By the way, anybody has any questions? Or anybody? Everything good? Yeah. You could. Now, depending on the size of the let me show you the guy. So depending on the size of your drone, it depends on the motor that you have. So like the bigger the drone is, the more powerful the receiver. Usually a good guide for the size of the motor is this. Right? So like if you have let's say you have the one that we're using right now is this one, the 200mm one. So you get this size of motors, right? 2204, 2208, or 2306, right? But if you're using a bigger one, then it tells me like a bigger size of motor, right? So you got it okay. Anybody else has a question on motors or? The next thing is the electronic speed controller. This is one of the most important parts of the drone. It basically goes. Let me see. It's like this part, and there's 4 of them. There's one for each motor. because this controls the speed, basically controls the motor from the signal that it gets from the flight controller. Oh wait, I passed the motor, right? Anybody has seen it? By the way, that motor that you guys see is burned. I burned it like a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Yeah. So whenever I talked about safety, yeah, that's why. This electronic speed controller. Actually, I'm gonna put it here. Okay, so this is the electronic speed controller. Like inside of what you see or you saw the previous image, that's the electronic speed controller. It basically controls the speed of the motor and stuff like that. These four get connected to remember the 4 pins I talked about in the flight controller? Number 1, 2, 3, 4, right? They get connected to this. So 4 of them get connected to the flight controller. And that's how the flight controller is able to control the motors, right? So yeah, this one is also burned, as you can see here. Zoom in. Let me get a pen. If you can see here, it's like popped. I don't know if you can see it from the image. So that one is burned. That one actually burned. I had a short circuit with the flight controller on the power distribution board once, and then it just burned. Just pass it around. So our recommendation for speed controllers is always get a good brand. If you get a cheap one, they're gonna burn. Like I had one speed controller once that not even like flying. I was setting it up and it just burned out of the blue because it was cheap. I usually get Emax, which is the good decent brand. I'm not gonna in this workshop. I'm not gonna go too deep into like the electronics of it, like the powers of it, because I just want it to be like a general thing. So it also uses this electronic speed controller also uses Simon K firmware. There are different types of firmware like BHELI. I don't know if you use BHELI. BHELI, yeah. So like different types. Oh, my bad. Okay, so there are different types like BHELI, Simon K. You can program all of them. They're all programmable to like whatever you wanna do. This speed controller also supports BEC, which basically gives electricity or power to your flight controller. So you don't have to like create an extra connection from the power distribution board to your flight controller. Does that make sense? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The next thing to get it's the power distribution board. Nothing too crazy about the power distribution board. It's basically you connect the battery to it here on this side, and then you can connect the 4 electronic speed controllers. As I said, the electronic speed controllers go connected to the flight controller and also to the power distribution board and also to the motors. So it's connected to 3 things. It's basically what puts everything together. Make sure whenever you get a power distribution board or you get the battery, you get the right connector. In our case, I'm using the XT60 power connector, which is the blue one here. But there are other types like this one and this one. So whenever you're getting the power distribution board, make sure that you get the right one for the battery that you get, because otherwise you're going to have to get an adapter, which is kind of annoying if you just want to fly and stuff like that. The battery. By far, the most tricky part to get when you're doing a drone is the battery. By the way, anybody has a question on the power distribution? Yeah.
Well, it's, when you see LIFO, it says 3-4S, what does that mean?
It means, what you're saying for the power distribution board or for the?
No, like, it's like, you see like LIFO,
For,
no, but it's like, 1 is 3 times 4s.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yes, that means it supports batteries of 3 cells or 4 cells. So batteries, which I'm gonna talk about next, what the type of battery are and things like that. Yeah, that means it supports like 3 cell batteries or 4 cell batteries. Okay. Any other question? Everybody following so far? So the battery, by far, the battery is like the trickiest part to get when you're building a drone because there are so many different types, sizes, different numbers that you have to look into. So I'm just gonna give like a general explanation on the battery and like the things that you should look at. By the way, in this link that I posted down here, there is a more detailed explanation for everything that I'm saying because there's so much to explain that I know it's not gonna be an hour and 30 minutes. An hour and 30 minutes is not gonna be enough. So I created a separate like resource guide that you can look at into, so you can like go more into. Oh. Yeah, if you log in with FIU, you should be able to. You got it? Yeah, so everything I'm saying, I'm going. Now I'm not going too much into detail. Maybe some of you already know, like you probably know like everything, and you probably. Oh, yeah. So like I'm not going too much into detail because if I go too much into details, an hour and a half not gonna be enough. So I just created I'm trying to be as general as possible. So you know, it might be, you might feel like you already know everything. And then, but I did create a guide that goes more into details if you want to learn more. And I also posted links there and references that you can go into if you want to learn even more. Because we can spend like a whole workshop talking about batteries and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to be as general as possible. So if you build your own drone, you have kind of like an idea of how it is. Okay, so batteries. The battery that I'm using for this drone is the Tronigi Nanotech 1.3. So there are mainly, I would say, 3 numbers that you want to look into the battery. The first one is this 1.3 here, or 1,300 amps, and the discharge rate. So this means that the discharge rate mainly means that how much current can be drawn from the battery without being damaged. So the higher it is, obviously, the better. So like for race drones and stuff like that, you want a higher C rate or discharge rate. Okay? Because if it's lower, then that means the drone is not, the ESCs are not going to get as much power as they should be. So you always want your battery to provide more power than what is actually needed, right? Not to provide, but to support more power than what is actually needed. So this is usually a 3-cell battery. So the more cells a battery has, the more capacity. But that also means the heavier it's going to be. So basically, you're going to need more power to fly the drone. So yes, you have more capacity in a sense, but not really, because you need more power. So especially with a small drone like this one, you don't want a battery that weighs like a lot. Okay, like I think this one weighs like maybe like, I'm not sure, I think like 110 or something like that. So yeah, you want to make sure that when you're picking a battery, you don't go either too much looking for like, oh, I want to fly 2 hours and I'm going to buy a 5-cell battery. No, that doesn't work because it's heavier, so it's going to need more current. So basically, you're not going to have the desired output that you want. This battery, since it's 3 cells, so each cell can be charged up to 4.2 volts. Usually they come in a range of like 3.7 volts, and that when you're storing the battery, when you keep it in storage without flying, you want to keep it at that level, because if you store it like at 4.2, which is the max, it's unstable. So like all the chemicals there are like, they want to move, they want to do stuff, and it could be a little bit dangerous. Also, we do not let the battery go below 3 volts per cell. Like if you flying the drone, before you fly it, always check the battery voltage, because if you let the battery or each cell of the battery go below 3.0, that can damage the battery really bad, and the future flight is not going to be as efficient. Okay, so also the brand of the battery is very important. A bad brand could be very shitty. Maybe the first flight is good, but then the second, third flight it's horrible. It only lasts like 10, 20 minutes. This one on average, depending on how I fly it, lasts maybe like 40 minutes, 45 minutes. If you fly like normally, if you fly like really heavily, it can last like 30. So yeah, safety. So next slide is safety on LiPo battery. So has anybody here worked with LiPo batteries before? Oh, yeah, of course I know. You're gonna say it. And does anybody has any question on the battery, on how to get a battery and which battery to choose? Is everybody following? Okay, good. So safety on LiPo batteries. As I was mentioning before, don't let it charge below 3.3 volts per cell. So like if your battery has 3 cells, don't let it discharge below 9 volts, right? When charging, use a safety bag, like this one that I have right here, right? Just in case. I mean, you don't have to, but by the way, that's Jose. He's a legend from ACM. He's been for ACM for like a couple of years. So, hi Jose, how you doing? He was in a previous Evo from last year. For those of you who don't know him, he's pretty cool though. So yeah, use a safety bag when you're charging it. Make sure like you're charging it, and you always looking at it. Don't go like lunch or like go to the movies and let it charge. No, you have to be looking at it the whole time, because it could be a little bit dangerous, or like catch on fire or something like that. Also, when you're getting the charger for your battery, make sure that it's the right charger, which is like the charge rate should be like equal to the amps of the battery. So like as you saw here, we have 1.3, right? 1.3 amps, right? So the charge rate of the battery should be around the same, 1.3. Usually, the slower the battery charger, the battery charger charges your battery, the better, because it will last longer. If it charges really fast, it's not gonna be as efficient. Although there are some batteries now that they can charge it really fast, but usually if you get a regular battery, the slower it gets charged, the better. The lasting is kind of long, and for future flights, the better it's gonna be. And yeah, always read the battery warning signs, just to like have it in the back of your mind. Even though I know nobody reads it. Okay. So the body frame. By the way, anybody has any question about it? We good? By the way, for you guys that just got here, I don't know if you want to follow. If you go to that link, that URL, in the bottom, there's a detailed guide of everything I'm saying. So, what's up? Why not?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. From the research I've done, they always, for these things, they use LiPo batteries. I don't know if you want to. Yeah, they need to have like, you need to get current faster than you would for a phone, stuff like that. Because you not only have the speed controllers, you have the camera, you have a UPS, you can have multiple things. Right? So you need something that can power all that.
So more accessories are happening, like you need extra batteries to like on it?
So that's a good question. It depends on you. Yes, the more you put into it, the less the battery is gonna last. I've seen some people that use 2 batteries, which is kind of weird, but they still do that. That's usually for bigger drones. For race drones, in reality, since the flight time is not expected to be that long since you're actually racing, and it's not, gonna be 40 minutes, stuff like that. It depends on the type of drone that you build. No, it's still the same. It's just the capacity. You have more capacity, but at the same time you have more weight. Right. So at the same time you have more weight, which means you need more power to fly the drone. So it's like a trade-off, right? So same with the two batteries. Yes, you have the argument behind two batteries that if one fails, the other one, or if like one discharges, the other one can kick in. But again, you're using more power. Right? So usually bigger drones, there's no issue with that because the bigger drones you don't fly like these. Like these, you fly really fast. The bigger drones is like slower, like filming stuff like that, like cruising kind of thing. So there's no issue with that. So the motors don't have to work as hard. With smaller drones, it doesn't make sense to have a bigger battery because you're going so fast that the motors is usually constantly going on a high speed. Right? So that's the question. Anybody else any other question on batteries? This one, I don't remember. I try not to look at the finances. Otherwise I would build the drone. Yeah, it could be a little bit expensive building drone bikes. I try not to look at how much I spent because I'll get depressed. I mean, it hasn't been that much. It'll probably be like, in total, probably like maybe 300, 400. Mind you, no, I'm saying like in total for building the drone. No, not for the battery. Not for the battery. No, not for the battery. I'm saying in general, it's been like 400. I think the battery was like maybe 30, 40 bucks. I'm not sure. I didn't, like I said, I wasn't keeping track of that. But if you do get a battery, make sure you get a right one. And the battery is the last thing to be cheap. Get the right battery, get a good one. Make sure that you read reviews about the battery that you're gonna get, that it's a good brand and stuff like that. Because the battery is one of the most important things, and you want to have a battery that lasts you, not for just this drone, but for any other drone, right? So, yeah, don't be cheap on the battery. You can be cheap on other things like the frame or maybe the propellers and stuff like that, or the guards, but not the battery, okay? Yeah. Mark, you had another question? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna take a break soon, like in 5 minutes. Yeah, so I actually spoke about that before, but so if you look at 1.3 amps, like that's like the capacity, but not really. It just means that how much current can you draw in a product Remington. You know more about this. It just means how much current can you draw from the battery, right? Kinda, yeah. Current, not power, current. So the discharge rate, it's kind of like how fast can you do it, right? So how fast can you draw that current from the battery? The higher the discharge rate is, the faster you can do it. So meaning the faster the drone is gonna go. The slower it is, the slower the drone is gonna go. But the higher the discharge rate, the less time the battery is gonna last. So, like I said, depending on the drone that you build, if you build a bigger drone, you might get, not a 45 to 90C, you may get like a maybe 20, 10, 20, because it's not gonna go as fast, right? Because the bigger drone doesn't go as fast. So, but for a smaller drone, race drone, you want a very high discharge rate because you want the drone to go fast. So, does that answer your question, Colin? Does that answer your question? We're gonna take a break for food. So there's pizza, Make sure you get one slide and so everybody can eat. And then also sign up on the sign-up sheet, and then we'll continue. If you have any questions, I'm here. By the way, does anybody has the motor? Okay.
Alright, if we take pizza, please sign in.
Cool.
I've learned already, but it's a little bit tricky at the beginning.
Because you know that these guards add more weight. to the
Yeah, I
drone.
know.
Yeah.
I usually don't have these. I
Oh,
put
okay.
these for today specifically because I also can fly inside here,
Oh,
and I didn't wanna, I didn't wanna like hurt anybody. So I usually don't. I keep it like this.
because I built the big one. I'm from the engineering.
Oh, cool. You built a big one already? So you already know everything.
Quite a few.
Oh, so you're
That's my
you should
thesis
be doing-
about.
You should be that one.
Well, whenever if you want to, because my thesis is about. Yeah. So, I used to work with Professor Boladia at the Discovery Lab.
Oh, I think he was working on like how to make a drone.
That was the drone guy that I helped out the Brazilian students that were here last summer. Yeah, it's a pretty cool project.
Maybe we can get in contact. Are you staying the whole workshop?
No, I'm actually in email, so if you want, I can give you my email, give me your info. Okay. I have a total of 650 now. I have a quad. And we built the DJI, the Octo. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, just the battery weighs like 6 pounds. So, I haven't flown much of these. I want to start building mine
These are
because
cool. You can go so fast with them.
I know.
So fast.
there's a tiny mistake coming by Bosch. You just gotta crash.
Yeah, that's the.
Yeah, and the way I kind of started learning was the flight simulator. Yeah. After I transitioned to the actual flight.
This is a really expensive body.
The frame?
Yeah.
You were there?
I've never built a small one yet. I'm thinking about building small ones.
Have fun with it. You can fly.
Yeah, because they're faster and they fly long. Like, what camera are you using?
Amazing camera.
Oh, I don't think these can hold GoPros, right? You don't think so?
No, probably a big one. Bigger one. Not that one. That one.
You should be attacked like get your content.
With the accelerator pressed all the way down for him by like the stickers and shit.
Who's working with this?
And then from
Over there, they're not doing it.
looks all kind of right.
They're
This way,
kind for some reason it seems that we're now in one right now.
Where's the quickest way to weapon? Where's the quickest way to weapon?
Fly into your face.
I've actually had a drone flying like this.
I have a lot of bodies. No, I have the bigger ones.
Yeah, it's the one you build. Really big.
That one is because it had to carry a big camera. It wasn't a big camera. I fly around the beach a lot and I get footage on the beach. And my roommate's a film editor, so he'll put the footage in his videos or whoever wants to buy, and he charges them more for it. So I'm just flying around. But I mean, the police always they always see it, like Coast Guard always see the drones. So
Oh,
like,
they don't allow drones?
And like the shitty part too is like I used to fly these at EC, like you know the Engineering Center. I used to fly them, but now it's like they've made some rules saying it's too close to the airport.
Oh wow.
Because we're close to I mean, we're pretty close to it, but I was just like, are you guys serious? But you can't fly there. So it's
But
like,
can you go up that high?
I mean, I was getting pretty high though. I had a camera and stuff. So I was just like, yeah. Mine? That was a big one. Like, I don't know the size of it, but it was, I had a big frame on it. Like, I don't know what, like, size. Yeah, I just put it on a GoPro at first, and it was good, but then I was just like, I want to see, like, how big of a camera I can get. And I put on, I forgot what it was. There was, like, some camera I did. And then I put a receiver on it, and then, I put a transmitter on there, like a 6-channel one. I think he uses a 6-channel one. Yeah, it's like the same
You
as
have
a
an
flight
8-channel?
controller. I don't know what channel, I forgot what it was.
I think you told me how to reach one.
Maybe. It's been a while since I've flown it. It's been like a good 6 months. I've just been so busy. Like, school and work. And
So it's just for clarity.
basically. And it was fun. It was really fun, yeah. But yeah, it was fun. I noticed that whenever you get a camera, because I try to fly, I have like one of those VR little headsets. I was trying to fly it with just the headset and you're flying. It doesn't work. Like, because you don't know where you're going. Like try, like, I had like a little headset once, a little VR headset. And I put the GoPro in and it transmitted the footage.
From the GoPro?
Yeah, from the GoPro is the live feed to my VR.
But
And you
the
think
GoPro light
it
is very
works.
light.
Well, not even that. It's just like when you're flying, you don't know where you're at because you only see like this part, so you don't know if you're going left and you're gonna hit this guy.
Yeah, you always have to be going forward.
It is too much. You're like, whoa. But then I learned that you put a little gimbal on it and you put a little stepper servo, and you only make it go down, and it makes a lot of the orientation right. So you can like go left and right. Well, the thing is, I made it only go down because I noticed that you can make it go left and right.
Wait, that's what the FPP one. Well, the FPP is
FPV is like stationary.
Yeah, it's stationary.
Yeah, but then like, you can like make it look down so you can like see where you're landing.
But that's with the GoPro.
Yeah, and that works the best. Because I wanted to make it go left, and then I don't know, like the orientation. It's a video game. You want to make the drone go left and right. You want it to go down and up.
Oh,
It was just weird. Like I'm trying to figure it out. I never built small ones though.
this was not fun.
I can never get like the KVC right on the motors. I don't know. I've never done a small one. I don't know how strong it is.
So the guy that I put it, that I wrote, it has like all the,
You have it on that link, right?
yeah, on this link, it has like,
Yeah, because I talked to some guy on my big one, and he told me I'm giving it too much KVC. That he said I was gonna burn my battery out or something. I guess.
it could be that this one too.
I don't know. I just know that like, I know my rule is whenever they get really close is the best. Like you can't get your blades any bigger.
No. That's 5 inch.
I know that's really close.
How fast does that go?
I haven't. I mean, I've plotted, but I don't have a way to measure how far
This
that
one you got the same one I got.
Yeah, I think I saw one.
Yeah, that's the one I have. You have to like hold it down left.
Oh yeah,
I mean down right, yeah. Well, mine's down left, but same thing.
Yeah, same thing.
And then it turns on, and then you can like stationary, and then you can kill someone. You could.
All right, let's keep going. Yeah. So I hope everybody enjoyed the pizza. Thank you, Carla. So anybody has any questions so far? So the next thing is the body frame. Nothing crazy. For the small drones, FPV, first person view drone, we're using the 210 millimeter drone frame body. This can be cheap. You can buy it on eBay and stuff like that. This is the same frame that I'm using for this one. The front of the frame is the one. Let's see if you look. Yeah, so the front, the one facing down. So like that's the front of the frame. Where the camera goes, the FPV camera goes, and then the four motors obviously go in the four things that you see on the side. Then the flight controller goes exactly in the middle with the power distribution board. And then usually, it's better. Usually the battery, you put it like on the top of everything. And then the receiver, depending how big it is, you can have different setup. This one is really big for this drone, so I put it on the front. But the smaller ones and stuff like that, since I don't have a camera here, I'm able to put it in the front. Otherwise, I'll probably put it like on the middle, on the back. But this one is really big for this drone, so you probably want to get a smaller one. This is one of the mistakes that I made when building the drone. I should have gotten a smaller receiver. So, because you want more space to put the camera, you want more space to put like the transmitter of the camera and the control ground station. Yeah. When you're building, by the way, when you're building a small drone, everything that you get has to be in the right size because you barely have space, so you have to play with the space a lot. As you can see here, like I barely have space to put anything else. And that's because when I was building it, like I said, I got way too big receiver. The battery is okay, it's not that big. It's fine for the size. But things like that can affect like the drone and also adds more weight and stuff like that. So, anybody has any question on the frame? All right. So the propeller, nothing crazy. The one thing I want to say about the propeller is that you can either get plastic, carbon fiber, or actually wood. You can actually get wood propellers. I don't know who would do that, but yeah, you can get wood propellers if you wanted to. Usually, for beginners, if you've never flown before, it's recommended to get plastic propellers because you're gonna break them a lot. And then once you learn how to fly, then you get carbon fiber, which are like the pro level. They're very light and they provide a lot of thrust. So you can also get not just this type. You can get the triangle type, which by the way he has, and that also provide more thrust in the drone. So I specifically, since as I was learning, I got these ones first. So then eventually I can move on to other ones. What's up?
Yeah.
No, currently. No. I mean, this could be really dangerous if you like fly into someone. One time I flew into myself and it really hurt. So, yeah. When they're going really fast and like you just make a bad movement or you like lose control and it flies into you, it really, really hurts. So, that's it. Yeah, so that's another thing. Thank you for reminding me. So another thing that when you get the propellers is that you have to make sure that they're balanced. Meaning that if you get a stick or like a really tiny pointy thing and you put the propeller into it, right? To know that it's balanced, that doesn't work. Well, to know that it's balanced, imagine that it's staying there. To know that it's balanced, it's supposed to be like this. If it goes like this or it goes like that, it's unbalanced. Meaning it's gonna be uneven when it's spinning. Meaning your drone is gonna like wobble, go left or right. What's up? So you can either not use that one, which is what I do. You just get usually the packs come with a lot of them. Like this one came with 24, so like. You have 4 or 24, that's a lot. So usually I test them out before putting them in the drone. I put them there. If I see they're balanced, I use them. If not, I just put them apart. What you can do is actually a fix that you did too. It's that you can either like scratch them to like take off a little bit weight on the side that has more weight, or you can add weight, which is unrecommendable. Like adding like a plastic thing or something. So like tape or something like that would add extra weight to the side. So 2 things. Actually, 3 things. The first one, the one I recommend, just switch it. Use another one because adding or taking off weight will just like kind of mess with the aerodynamic of the propeller. So what I recommend is if it's not balanced, if you don't see it like this, use another one. They're very cheap, so like don't stress it out. And going into that too, that the question that he had was how can does the drone wobble because of the unbalanced propellers? That's something that when you build your own drone, you have to once you're done with it, you have to tune and make sure that all the configurations are correct. Because if you tune it incorrectly, it could be that there's a wrong configuration, and that's why it's wobbling and stuff like that. So, yeah, that also could contribute to that. Any other question? Also, if you're wondering, this is something some people don't know. To what direction the propeller is? As you can see here, countercloud. It's always towards what the letter is. So like this one here is going towards the letter here. So what the little bump is, that's the side where the propeller is going to. So meaning you have 4 motors, right? 2 are clockwise, the other 2 are counterclockwise, right? So you have to make sure that you put the right propeller on the right motor. How do you make sure that? The trick I've learned is that if when you're screwing, when you forget the word. When you tying the propeller, if you tying towards what the numbers are, then you're in the right track. So basically, let's say I have this, right? If you tying this way, so clockwise, that means you put the right propeller in the right motor. If not, then something's wrong. Okay? Same with this one. So if you time this way, so counterclockwise, then that means you put the right propeller in the right motor. Okay? Any question with that? No? Okay. The transmitter. So this transmitter, which is this here, it's what actually controls the drone. There are different. What is it?
Is that the birthday button?
No. No, Shirley. No. Anyways, so this transmitter here. The good thing about the transmitter is that you can use it for anything, not just drones. You can use it for RC race cars or helicopters or airplanes. Anything that you want, you can use this for. So whenever you get this, just get the one that works for you. This one is specifically 6 channels. You can see here, there, the 6 channels. But there are 8 channels, and I believe also like 10 channels. So I'm not sure, but I know there's 8 channels. So whenever you get the transmitter, make sure that you get the one that works for you. Like usually they're all like the same, but if you have 6 channels, some have other things some features that this don't have. So like depending on that, you can get the controller. The controller is easy to set up. It doesn't take. It's not crazy. Also, the receiver that goes with the controller. Usually, what I recommend is get the receiver with the controller. Sometimes they could come separate, but if you do buy separate, make sure that you get the right one, like the same brand. Usually, the same brand works together. So, and also the number of channels from the receiver work with the number of channels with the transmitter. But I recommend to buy them together. Like, if you look on Amazon and stuff like that, you can find the whole kit of transmitter and receiver together. Anybody has any questions? By the way, if you guys are wondering how the controller is, I try to find I try to find a picture of how the controller works. This picture is actually backwards to this one because the throttle is in this side. The throttle is usually the one that doesn't go to the center because you want to be able to go from 0 to like max power. So you want to be able to like be, power down or power up. So, and then you have, actually, yeah, so you have yaw. So like to control the yaw, it's this one, so left and right, and then pitch, up and back, and then roll left and right. There are different setups. You don't have to do the setup. When you setting up the drone, you can pick any setup that is best to you. If you're used to like the other way around, I don't recommend it with this one because, like I said, you don't want to start a throttle already in the middle. You want to start a throttle all the way to 0. So, and then you have the three flight modes. which are here, and then an auxiliary channel here. Right, so I try to find a picture that describes it really well, but this one, it says a lot, but it's backwards of some controllers. Any questions so far? No? Eventually we're gonna get to my part, hopefully. Thanks. Okay. Yeah, okay, so all the parts, with everything that I've said so far, you can already build a drone and it will fly. Now, I do recommend all the parts that you can get. Not necessary, but you can also look into like the propeller guard. You don't use this when it's a race drone because it adds weight. But if you like learning and stuff like that, it will save you from breaking a lot of propellers. So like if it ever crashes, like it saves you from breaking the propeller. So I recommend that if you're learning, and then eventually you can take them off. It's like baby wheels, you put them on and then you take them off, right? So, and if you still want more, right, you can also get a GPS unit, which will tell you where your drone is, FPV camera, first person view, which you put here, and then you can actually race with the drone and stuff like that. Control guide station, and also a GoPro. This small drone doesn't support GoPros. GoPros is basically for bigger drones, like bigger size, because GoPros are too big. There's no way you can put one. I mean, you could try. Maybe if you do it, just let me know. Yeah. So, unfortunately, I can't go through the whole assembly process. Like, I can't do it here because it takes a lot of time. Like, this one is already assembled. But I will go through, like, some of the basic things to do and look into. So, does anybody has any questions so far before I keep going? Okay, so this is the frame, right? This is the frame. We have the 4 motors. So the power distribution board is in the middle, below the flight controller, right? So this is the power distribution board. It's below the flight controller, which is here. The power distribution board, the 4 electronic speed controllers are connected to it. So like to this open connections here. The battery gets connected to this positive and negative side, right? So, and then on top of this, so like literally on top of that, is where the flight controller goes. If depending on the speed controller, as I mentioned before, you don't have to connect the power distribution board to the flight controller because that power comes from the electronic speed controller. Does that make sense? So like, if you have the type of electronic speed controllers that's called BEC, which is battery elimination circuit, you can connect it to the flight controller, and then that will power your flight controller without having to connect it to the power distribution board. Does that make sense? Good. Okay. So then after that, you put your motors, 4 motors. So usually the clockwise, counterclockwise thing is not a big deal with the motors because you can always switch the cables. So like you don't have to worry about, oh, did I connect it correctly? But you do have to worry about that they're spinning correctly when you set it up. So like, put an image so it's easy to see. It's actually a different setup. So let's just look at this image. I'm not sure if it's the setup that I have, but it's just an example of how the spinning works on the drone. So like you have one side, this side is spinning opposite to this one, and this side is spinning opposite to this one. these two across are the same, and these two across are the same, right? Does anybody know why we do that? Why does the drum does that? Does anybody? I know you get. Stay quiet. Does anybody has any idea why? Good. What will happen if they all spin in the same direction? Right, it would just basically spin. The drone will spin itself. So yeah, we did. The drone does that for stabilization. So good. Like I said, when you mounting the motors, you don't have to worry about that. The motors do come with like different color caps, or like different color, so you can kind of like have an idea. But it's not like the motor is not gonna spin in the opposite direction. That's not true. It's just that you can have so you can have an understanding of what's going on when it comes to like connecting the motors and stuff. Oh, wait, pass it around. More on this. So when you soldering, the hardest, not the hardest part, but the trickiest part, especially if you haven't done soldering before, is soldering the power distribution board. By the way, which I have one here, you can pass it around too. It's a power distribution board. So this is the first power distribution board that I got. As you can see, it's all messed up. That's because it was my first time soldering, so so yeah, I didn't do a really good job with that one. So I'm actually proud of that because you know I did everything with it and it still worked. Like it still works now. I just switched it because yeah. So like it's like the hero, right? So oh, not me. You mean the. But yeah, so basically soldering here is the hardest part if you haven't soldered before. The one tip that I would say is that take your time when you're doing it, don't rush it. If something is not connected correctly, it's not gonna work, or you're gonna fry the whole drone. Don't rush through it, don't try to, you know, be like, oh, I wanna do it fast so I can fly it. No, I've done that before, it doesn't work. Make sure you isolate everything. Like whenever after you solder, make sure like you put tape, like insulating tape around it. Like I have when you see that drone, you see like the insulating tape from the power distribution board to everything else. So yeah. So yeah, soldering is one of the hardest part, and then everything else is just knowing where to connect what. This is like a kind of like a general view. Oh. This is kind of like a general view. This is kind of like a general view where things go. Literally after you solder the ESCs to the power distribution board, everything else is like easy. It's not a big deal. I already mentioned how to connect the flight controller and how to connect the motors. Yeah, so okay. Yeah, so finishing up. Let's see if we can. All right. Can everybody see this? Is it too small, or should I put it on the? Yeah, let me just put it. So the three black cables go connected to the three motors. The motors, when I pass the motor around, you guys saw, so the three black cables go connected to like this, to the electronic speed controller, and then these three cables here go connected to the flight controller, and then there's actually two cables that are cut out, which go to the power distribution board. Does that make sense? The guy that I have put, like the link that I show you guys, he has all that. So like, whenever you if you wanna do it, you can just go there for references. Like it's a lot of information. But this is kind of like another view of like all the parts and stuff like that. It's kind of basically the same thing. No difference. They actually use the same battery. Yeah, so it's kind of like a different view of all the parts that go into the drone. Kind of like put really well organized. Does anybody has any question on any of this, on any of these parts, or like what they do or the purpose? Kind of that. It comes within the flight control. Yeah, the S code comes within the flight control. The only thing that doesn't come, depending on the flight controller that you get, like an altitude controller, sometimes doesn't come with the flight controller. So like you have to. Is it necessary? No. By altitude, I mean like how high it is. So if you have that, you're able to stabilize the drone without having to like do it manually, right? Which is very stable, but that makes sure that it actually gets stable. Right, so depending on the flight controller that you get, you either have to or don't have to get them. But it's all those things are in the flight controller, right? Except the GPS. Except the GPS. Any questions? We're kind of done. Does anybody has any question? So, no, the tiny URL is even more detailed than this. And the tiny URL, I'll explain everything very, very detailed because I knew I wasn't going to be able to explain everything in an hour and a half. So the tiny URL has more. So this presentation, it's like a subset of the tiny URL. I just went through the main points. I didn't go too much into details, but the tiny URL does talk about every single detail. And I will be updating it tonight because there are some images here that are not there, so I will be updating it tonight. Yeah, I got you. So to your question, how do you get started? If you follow from the slide that said what things to get first, if you start from there, getting the flight controller and the power distribution board part by part, you can do it. Also, in the tiny URL link, it tells you the things that you have to get and stuff like that. So you can.
Does the tiny URL
Huh? Sorry, I couldn't hear you. What?
Does the tiny URL have
No, but the tiny URL, like I was telling him, it's like a more detailed version of the PowerPoint, like a very, very detailed version of the PowerPoint.
Okay, perfect.
So, yeah. Yeah, we leave it now. So.
You don't have to go. Just you can start studying things up.
Oh yeah, that's fine.